Love after 60. 5 things men stare at on women when they're turned on. 95% have no clue.
Welcome to Wise Life After 60. So grateful to have you here. Men like to believe they're subtle, but the truth is far more revealing. There are 5 very specific places a man's eyes lock onto the moment he feels a spark, and most women never realize how quickly it all happens. Attraction doesn't begin with charm or confidence. It begins with instinct, with small shifts in a man's gaze that quietly reveal what's already happening inside him before a single word is spoken. Over the years, what has surprised me most is how universal these patterns are. Different cultures, different ages, different personalities, yet the same silent magnetism appears again and again when a man is genuinely turned on. Men don't look randomly. Their attention follows a rhythm, an unconscious sequence their mind has practiced for years without noticing. What they look at first is rarely what women expect. Some believe men are predictable. Others think attraction is always obvious. That misunderstanding is exactly why these 5 places feel so surprising once you truly understand them. Because when desire is real, a man's eyes stop obeying social rules. They slip, return, and linger just a moment longer than intended. And in that brief moment, the truth shows itself. Long before words or promises, a man's eyes quietly confess what his mind already knows. This isn't about judging men, it's about understanding a silent language that has shaped attraction for centuries. And if these reflections resonate with you, I invite you to gently like this video and subscribe to Wise Life After 60 so we can continue these quiet conversations together. Now, before we move forward, let me begin with the very first place a man's eyes go when attraction truly wakes up, because this one surprises almost everyone. Thing number 1. Her face and expression. Most women assume a man's attention starts somewhere obvious. But desire, real desire, doesn't begin where it can be easily explained. It begins where emotion first shows itself. The very first place a man looks when something inside him stirs is her face, not her body, not her figure, but the quiet language written across her expression. I've learned over the years that a man isn't searching for beauty in that first glance. He's searching for permission. In those first seconds, his eyes are asking questions long before his mind forms words. Is she open to this moment? Is she present? Is she aware of herself and the space between us? This is where attraction either wakes up or quietly goes back to sleep. A man studies the eyes first, not in a dramatic way, but in a way so subtle most women never notice. He's drawn to how steady your gaze feels, whether it softens or sharpens, whether it holds warmth or distance. Around the eyes, he reads curiosity, safety, invitation, or restraint. And then his attention drifts to the mouth, not yet to desire it, but to sense emotion. The softness around the lips, the ease of a smile, the absence of tension. All of this tells him more than posture ever could. What many women don't realize is that when a man holds eye contact just 1 or 2 seconds longer than courtesy allows, something important has already happened. That small pause isn't politeness, it's recognition. It's the moment his nervous system responds before his logic steps in. This is not about judging attractiveness. This is about sensing emotional availability. I've watched men lose interest in a beautiful face that felt guarded and grow deeply intrigued by a face that carried calm, curiosity, and ease. The face becomes a mirror. He isn't just seeing you, he's seeing how it might feel to be near you. That's why expression matters more than features. Desire doesn't respond to perfection, it responds to presence. This is the part of the attraction that few people talk about. The beginning isn't physical at all, it's emotional permission. When your face reflects comfort in your own skin, when your expression isn't performing or bracing, you're communicating something powerful without realizing it. And once that permission is sensed, his attention doesn't disappear, it simply begins to travel, slowly, instinctively, and in a direction that reveals far more than most women ever expect. Thing number 2. Her lips. Something subtle happens after a man has read a woman's face. His attention doesn't jump, it slides. Almost without permission, his gaze moves downward, settling briefly on her lips. Not because he chooses to, but because instinct has already taken over. Lips represent closeness in the human mind, long before touch ever enters the picture. They are where words leave the body and where intimacy might someday begin. When a man feels attraction, his eyes are drawn to this area as if checking the possibility of connection. It's not fantasy yet, it's potential, a quiet, unconscious question forming beneath awareness. Men often look at a woman's lips while she's speaking, even when they appear fully engaged in conversation. It's not distraction, it's the brain layering information. Sound, expression, movement, and proximity all converge here. When she smiles, the pull strengthens. When she pauses between words, his attention lingers just a fraction longer. Even when he tries to maintain eye contact, his focus drifts back, then returns, then drifts again. This is where the body begins to respond. Subtle signs appear without intention. A change in breathing, a swallow that feels unnecessary, a small adjustment in posture as if his body is preparing for something his mind hasn't named yet. None of this is deliberate. It's biology quietly expressing interest before reason interferes. What matters most is not the shape of the lips, but the ease carried in them. Tension communicates restraint. Softness communicates openness. When a woman speaks comfortably, without guarding or performing, her lips become part of a natural rhythm that men instinctively respond to. Desire doesn't look for perfection, it looks for authenticity that feels safe to approach. This is why attraction often surprises women. Nothing about their behavior changed, they were simply present, and presence, when paired with comfort, becomes deeply compelling. If you've ever noticed a man holding your attention while your words seemed ordinary, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you sensed moments like that where the energy shifted quietly between you? Share your experience in the comments. These small observations often reveal more than we realize. Once this unconscious focus is set, the gaze doesn't rush forward. It continues its slow exploration, drawn next to a place that blends intimacy with elegance in a way few women ever suspect.
Thing number 3. Her neckline and collarbone. At some point, a man's attention drifts to a place most women never suspect carries such quiet power. It isn't dramatic, it isn't obvious, and it certainly isn't crude. His gaze settles briefly in the space between her face and her body, the gentle line of the neckline, the collarbone catching light as she breathes. This area holds a unique kind of femininity. It communicates softness without asking for attention. It reveals movement without exposure. The collarbone rises and falls with breath. The shoulders shift naturally, and in those small motions the body speaks. Men respond to this not because it is revealing, but because it is alive. What draws him in is not how much skin is shown, but how gracefully the body transitions from stillness to motion. A necklace resting against the skin. A blouse that opens just enough to suggest space rather than invitation. The subtle hollow at the base of the throat that seems to glow when a woman relaxes. These details create anticipation rather than demand, and anticipation is where desire quietly deepens. I once noticed this while watching a couple talk at a small gathering. The woman wasn't trying to impress anyone. She leaned slightly forward as she listened, her shoulders relaxed, her breath steady. The man across from her barely realized his eyes had softened, lingering on the gentle movement of her collarbone as she laughed. Nothing about the moment was sexual, yet the connection felt unmistakably intimate. In another moment, years later, I watched a woman walk into a room wearing a simple dress with a modest neckline. She moved slowly, comfortably, not drawing attention to herself. As she spoke, her shoulders shifted naturally, her posture open. Men noticed, not because of exposure, but because of ease. Her body wasn't performing, it was simply present. This is where many misunderstand attraction. It isn't about revealing more, it's about revealing less while allowing space for imagination. Elegance carries power because it invites the eye to linger without feeling intrusive. The neckline and collarbone offer that invitation quietly. Once a man's attention reaches this point, desire has already passed the stage of curiosity. It has settled into awareness. And from here, his gaze begins to slow, preparing to move into something deeper, more instinctive, and far harder to ignore.
Thing number 4. Her waist and hips. Have you ever noticed how a man's attention changes once he feels certain the connection is real? Not rushed, not scattered, but slower, heavier, almost grounded. That shift happens when his gaze reaches the waist and hips, the place where attraction moves from curiosity into instinct. By the time a man looks here, something important has already been confirmed. Emotional permission has been granted. Interest has settled. Now the body takes over. The waist and hips speak a language older than words, a language tied to rhythm, balance, and confidence. This isn't about size or shape, it's about how a woman inhabits her body. Men are not drawn to stillness here, they are drawn to motion. The gentle sway while walking, the subtle shift of weight from one leg to the other, the natural turn of the torso during conversation. These movements signal comfort, self-trust, and ease. The brain responds instantly, not because it is analyzing beauty, but because movement activates something primal and deeply familiar. What many women misunderstand is that attraction at this stage is no longer visual alone, it's sensory. The man isn't simply looking, he's imagining rhythm, flow, presence. The waist and hips communicate confidence without effort, not confidence that demands attention, but confidence that exists quietly, without apology. This is why forced stillness can dull attraction. When a woman tightens, braces, or tries to control how she appears, the natural rhythm disappears. Men sense that immediately. Desire responds to freedom, not perfection. The body that moves comfortably tells a story of ownership, of ease, of someone at home within herself. Here, attraction becomes biological. The nervous system recognizes harmony. His gaze slows because his body is listening. He's no longer scanning, he's responding. This is the moment when desire stops being theoretical and starts becoming embodied. If you've ever felt men become more attentive when you relaxed into your movements instead of trying to manage them, you're not imagining it. I'd love to know your thoughts. Have you noticed how comfort in your body changes the way men respond to you? Share your reflections in the comments. Your insight may help someone else feel less alone in theirs. From here, the gaze doesn't focus on parts anymore. It begins to widen, taking in something far more powerful than any single detail.
Thing 5. Her overall silhouette. Something changes when a man stops looking at parts and starts seeing the whole.
His gaze pulls back, almost instinctively, as if his eyes are trying to hold a complete picture rather than details. This is the moment attraction settles into something deeper, quieter, and more memorable. The silhouette is where desire gathers itself. By now, his attention is no longer darting or testing, it's observing. The overall outline of her body and space becomes the focus. Her posture, the way she stands, how she occupies the room without needing to announce herself. This is not about curves or proportions, it's about coherence, how everything comes together. A silhouette is visible energy. It shows how a woman carries herself through the world. Relaxed shoulders speak differently than guarded ones. A grounded stance feels different than a tentative one. Even stillness communicates something when it's comfortable rather than frozen. Men read this without effort. They aren't evaluating, they're absorbing. I once noticed this while watching an older woman cross a room during a quiet evening gathering. She wasn't dressed to impress. Her movements were unhurried. She paused when she spoke, shifted her weight naturally, and stood as if she belonged exactly where she was. A man nearby watched her without realizing he had leaned back slightly, his eyes soft, attentive, almost reflective. Later, he couldn't describe what drew him in. He only said she felt calm. That calm was her silhouette speaking. This is where attraction becomes intention. When a man sees a woman's full presence, desire moves beyond momentary interest. His gaze deepens. It lingers not out of hunger, but recognition. The nervous system remembers what the mind cannot explain. This is the stage where attraction becomes personal. Silhouette reflects authenticity. A woman comfortable in her body doesn't shrink or perform. She takes up space without resistance. That ease creates a powerful impression because it signals emotional maturity and self-trust. Men respond strongly to this, especially later in life, because it promises peace rather than tension. In the end, this is the strongest signal of all. Not a feature, not a movement, but the quiet harmony of a woman at ease with herself. When a man sees that, his desire softens, steadies, and stays. And long after the moment passes, that image remains with him, unforced, unforgettable, and deeply human. As we come to the end of this reflection, I want to leave you with one quiet truth. Men are not moved only by what they see. What truly holds their attention is something far less visible, yet far more powerful. Energy, presence, the feeling of being with someone who is at ease within herself. A man may notice physical beauty in a moment. That spark is real, but it is brief. What keeps his eyes returning, what makes his attention soften instead of rush, is the emotional energy a woman carries. When she is relaxed, fully present, and not trying to perform or impress, something shifts. His gaze doesn't wander because it feels grounded. It feels real. Over time, I've learned that attraction deepens when a woman allows herself to simply be, not proving, not competing, not managing how she is perceived. In that state of ease, her presence becomes magnetic. Men respond to that without effort, often without understanding why. Physical beauty may open the door, but emotional energy decides whether someone wants to stay in the room. That is the part of attraction that grows stronger with age, wisdom, and self-acceptance. If this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to gently like this video and subscribe to Wise Life After 60. We're building a quiet space here for reflection, understanding, and shared wisdom. Until next time, take care of your spirit and trust the power of simply being yourself.